Hi guys, how are you guys doing? Are you guys ready? So we're going to start the ITI 1120 exam review. So my name is Guok Dat, and this workshop will be about an hour. And I got an A plus last year, so I'm very confident that I can help you guys prepare for this exam. So there will be 8 questions in total. 4 of them will be coding questions, and then 4 of them will be big O questions. So now I want you guys to have your IDE open and have a piece of paper because we're going to go over these questions. So let's get started with the first one. Now, question 1 is to write a function called is palindrome, and you're going to take in a parameter x. So given an integer x, return true if x is a palindrome and false if it's not. So a palindrome is basically an integer or a string that reads the same when reversed. So this will be like a warm-up question, and you guys will have 3 minutes for it. Okay, and time's up. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to turn on your mic and ask. You can also use the chat. Now let's go over the solution. So for example, if the input is 1 to 1, this is indeed a palindrome, so it should return true. If there's a minus sign in front, well, it's not obviously a palindrome anymore because when you reverse it, it's not the same as -1. And 10 is also not a palindrome. So the solution is very simple. You have a function is palindrome, and then you just convert it to a string. And this is the syntax for reversing a string. And we're saying, well, when we reverse it, is it equal to the original? And if it is, then we will return true. If not, this will return false. I'm gonna paste this in the chat. You guys might have to reformat it if needed. Let's move on to the next question. So now this question will be a little bit harder, and this is where we start to get a little bit serious. So question 2, I will give you guys 5 minutes. Write a function two sums, nums and target. So given an array of integers nums and an integer target, return indices of the two numbers such that they add up to the target. You may assume that each input would have exactly one solution, and you may not use the same element twice. You can return the answer in any order. So for example, you have 3 to 4, the target is 6, right? So in here, in this array, you know that 2 plus 4 is 6. So the output is 1 and 2. And why is that? Because 2 is at index 1 and 4 is at index 9. So that's why you return. For this one, 3 and 3, 3 add 3 gives you 6, so you return index 0 and 1. Now, if the target is 7, right, then 3 plus 3 is not 7, so there's no answer in this, and you can just return null if you. And down here, well, in this array, 2 plus 7 is 9, so you return the index 0 and 1. So go ahead and start solving this. I'll start the time. Okay, you have about 60 seconds left. Okay, time's up. Do you guys need more time? Was that good enough? Go over the solution. If you haven't finished it, it is all right. Now let's do an example. So, hey, let me plug in special pen. Okay, writing with this pen and the array 2, 3, 2, and 4. Have, let's say, index 0, 1, 2, and let's say the target is going to be 6. So this is very simple. Now you just do 3 plus 2. Is that 6? No, it's not. Okay, so 3 plus 4. Is that 6? No, it's not. Now we go to the next one. We're at number 2. So is 2 plus 4 6? Yes, it is. So just return 1 and 2. And that's because we have these indices there. So return 1 and 2. Now let's say that the target is number 7 instead of 6. So here we're at number 2, right? We compare 2 with 4. That's not 6. So we have to move to 4, right? We move to number 4. But here we know that there's no number to compare to. So that's why when we compare the numbers, we only have to go from the beginning to the second last element. We don't need to go on to the last element because we don't have any numbers to the right compared to. So that, let's write out the solution. So for I in range from 0, let's say n is the length of the array. So n minus 1 to the second last element. So does that make sense? This part is very important, or else you will get the index out of bounds. So for j, in range I plus 1 to the n of the array. And what's happening here? Well, let's say we're here, right? So I, and we compare 3 to 2 and then 3 to 4. So we have to run j next to I till j reaches the n of the array. So that's basically I plus 1 to n. Then if in the list l I plus l j equal to the target, then we will return indices I and j. Now, once we exit from these for loops, we know that there's no answer. So once we get to this point, no possible answer, and we have to return none. That's it. This is the solution. I've pasted in chat, and if you guys are ready, I'll move on to the next question. So question number 3. So what is question number 3? As you can see, now you have 50 minutes, so it is a little bit more challenging than the last one. Now you have to write a function called Roman to integer. It's gonna take in a string s, and that's basically a string representation of an integer. So for example, the input is I, right? In Roman numerals, you know that it's 3, so that's why the output should be 3. And you convert the Roman numerals into integers. And one thing to know is that the maximum numeral is 3999. So you cannot go above that. That's the maximum Roman numeral that there is. Now, if you look at this table over here, we have value, and basically it shows you what is the value of the letter. So if we look at 10, right, 10 is basically X, and this is known as a dictionary in Python. If you look at this example 2, L, V, I, L is 50, V is 5, then I is 3, so that's going to give you 58. And similarly, down here you have M, D, M, X, IV, that's 1994, because M is 1000, CM is 900, XC is 90, and IV is 4. I will now start the timer. Now, let's go over these. First things first, we have the input, which is m mx. I always recommend that whenever you get a question, you write it out. I find that back then, the most common mistake is that students make is that they just do it inside their head, right? That's not the way to do it. I really recommend writing out. So here it says that m is going to be 1,000, pm together is 900. Then this here will be 90, and then this here will be 4. So we will get 90. Okay, so this is the way I would solve it. First, I would just convert each letter into numeric value. So this will be 1,000 is 100, m is 1,000, x is 10, I is 1, and v is 5. Okay, so right away you can see that a pattern is happening. See that there's a relationship between 900, 100, and 1,000, right? What is that relationship? Well, that relationship is if you take 1,000 minus 100, you get 900. Then here you have 100 minus 10, you get 90, and then 5 minus 1, you get 4. Then at the end, if you add all of these numbers together, you take 1,000 plus minus 100 plus 1,000 plus minus 10. You add all of these together, you will end up with this number. Okay, so the way to solve this is whenever you have a number, right, like 100, and then you look at the number to the right, if the right number is larger than this number, then you just put the minus sign in. Right, so for example, you look at number 1 and then you look at the number to the right, you see that 5 is larger, so you just put the minus sign. That's it, that's the solution. Now let's take a look. So step number 1 is you're going to split S. Actually, you don't need the self here, optional, just S. So split S into an array of characters. So MCMXIV, you split it into lists like this. And the code would be you have an empty list, and for each character inside the string, you add it to the list. So it's very simple. Then step number 2 is to convert it to the values. And so you traverse from beginning to the end of the list. You get the current character, right? And then you get the value. You convert it to its values. Let's say current character is 5, right? Then you go here, V is 5, so then you put it back into the list. And so V gets converted to number 5 here. That's basically what this does. And then step 3 is negate the number if it is smaller than the number to the right. So what does that mean? It means that you have you're going to go from beginning to the second last element. Let's say you're here, you look at the number to the right. And then you keep doing that until you get here, and then you look to the number to the right. Okay, you don't go on to the last the last letter, because if you go on to the last one, there's no number to the right, and that's when you actually get the index out of bounds. So that's why you only go to the second last element. So this for loop here, right there, it says length L minus 1. It means to the second last element. Now you get the current number, right? Now if this current number is smaller than the number to the right, and that's basically the syntax, then you just put minus sign. Then at the end, you return the sum. That's basically the solution. Any questions? No? Okay. Moving to question number 4. This one is easier. It's 10 minutes. Okay, so write a function called majority element, takes in an array nums. Much better. Return the majority element. So the majority element is the element that appears more than n, which is the length of the list. So n over 2 times. Okay, now what does let's see, what does this sign mean? It means you round down. So if the length is 7, so 7 divided by 2 is 3.5, then this sign means you round down to 3. Just round down to the whole number. Now, you may assume that the majority element always exists in the array. So let's take a look at this example. Now, you have 2, 2, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2. How many numbers is that? Oh, 5, 6, 7. Now, 7 divided by 2 is 3.5. You round down to 3, right? So we're looking for a number that appears more than 3 times. Now, in this array, you see the number 1 appears 3 times, but that doesn't count. We want more than 3 times. You see number 2 occurs 4 times, and that's more than 3 times. So number 2 is what we're looking for, and that's why the output is. So start a timer, and you have thing. So let's array 1112, right? And the length of the array is 7. So we're looking for 7 over 4 down, that gives you 3. Right? So we're looking for some number that occurs more than 3 times. Our goal is to find something that more than 3 times. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a dictionary where the keys are the set of this. Basically, what that means is you have one, you have right the unique numbers. If you have 3, then you add 3 in here, but in this case, this and the values would be the number of occurrences. So number 2 occurs 4 times, and number 1 occurs 3 times. And then I look through each key, which one has a value that is more than 3. Well, obviously number 2, so you have to return the Now the first step is to create that dictionary. So I'll call it D, and that's the syntax for creating the dictionary. And you say for every number in the nums array, if it's not in D, then we put it inside D, and we say it occurred 1 time. But if it's already in the dictionary, then we just take the value and we increment by 1. So that's done. Now the next step is to find the key that appears more than n over 2 times. And the floor down, right? That's this sign, that's this symbol here, Python, the double slash. That's what it is. So for each key in the dictionary, we get the value of that key. Now, if that value is larger than the length of nums, that's basically n over 2 rounded down, we return the key. And finally, okay, now if we're unable to find the key, we finish the for loop, then we just return. Okay, paste it in the chat. If there are no questions, I'll move on to the next question, which is question number 5. This one, you only have 2 minutes. So we're very close to finishing the workshop, and you have 3 questions left. So given this code, imagine this program is running and it is about to print by Dragonfly. So it's like right here for this print statement, right here where my mouse is at the moment. Which of the following is true about variables x, y, and z? So option A, all of these 3 variables, x, y, and z, refer to the same object. B, x and y refer to the same object and z to different object. C, x and z refer to the same object and y to a different object. And D is y and x refer, y and z refer to the same object and x a different. So you have By the way, if you have the answer already, feel free to just paste it in the chat. Right. Now, we have to draw the trace of the function in order to tell which object is referring to which. The beginning, this function isn't executed yet. We're actually here. It's going to execute this part. Now we have x, right? And x is going to point to a list. That list will be 1, 2, 3. And you have a is equal to 200. So the way it works in Python is whenever you have an integer or string or a boolean, it won't be a pointer. It will just be like a box, a memory cell in a computer, and you just have 200 inside. And then you call Dragonfly. Okay, you call Dragonfly. You pass in x and a. So we are here at this part. Now, obviously, x becomes y. Like I said, if it's a list, it's going to be a pointer. So you have y pointing to this list, and b is also 200. In Python, it will create a separate cell. If it's an integer, it will create a separate memory cell. But if it's a list, it will just point to the same list. Okay, so we're at this step. Now y1 is equal to 0. So it's y here. It's gonna see where is index number 1. Index number 1 is here, right? So it's going to change it. Something else. It's going to change to 0. And then we are here. So b is 700 now. Going to go to this memory cell and change to 700. And then z is equal to y. So z is equal to y, which means this points to y like this. Then z0 is 1,000. So it says z, okay, we're here, then it goes to y, then it goes to this list, and then index 0 is equal to 1,000. So this step is done, and then it's going to print by Dragonfly. Okay, so let's look at the question. It's asking x and y refer to the same object and z to different object. No, that's not true. Actually, x and y and z are referring to the same list, as you can see. It's referring to the same list. So the answer is actually A. A will be the answer. Now, just one interesting thing I want to point out is if I were to add print x and print A, what will the outputs be? Well, x, it will print out 1,000, 0, 3, because x is currently pointing to this list, and A would be 200. Okay, next question. You have only 1 minute for it. It's the same code, so imagine this program is running and it's about to print by Dragonfly. Which of the following is true about variables a and b? Both a and b are referring to the same object. A and b refer to two distinct objects. Okay, the answer would be B. A and B refer to two distinct objects, because if you look at this image right here, they're currently in different styles, so they're referring to different objects. So question number 7, you have this list, this function, and what is the running time of this function in terms of big O? So I hope you guys learn it. If you haven't, let me know, and I will try to explain it. So um, I will start the time. Okay, let's go over the answer. So first thing is to actually draw it out. Something I use is called the box method. So you see there are two for loops. You're going to box them like this, and the one down here. The reason why we don't box the n equals length L and print statement is because both of them they are all of one time, which means they're executed almost immediately. So we don't have to worry about that. And at the same time, this is an arithmetic operation, exponentiation, and that's also all of one. So we don't have to worry about it. Now, this for loop goes from 0 to n. So obviously it is all of n. And this for loop also goes to all of n, to n. So it's also all of n. And whenever we have two for loops that are not nested, so in this case, they happen, this one finishes and then this one starts, right? So they are not nested. So we have all of n plus all of n with all of n. So this will be final solution. Now, what if I change this n right here, second function, to the number 10? What would be the running time? So I'll give you guys. And this is also the last question. Okay. So here they want to change n to number 10. So now the second for loop would just be all of 10, right? So we have all of n. Oh, we have something. Any other get more involved? With GDSE Ottawa. Yes. We'll answer that after the stay here a little bit afterwards. So we have all of n plus all of 10. If you write it like this, it is fine as well. It means the same thing. So you want to get the largest term. That's of course all of n. N is larger than 10. And it's a function. It's a linear function. Now the answer would be this. But let's say, what if you have n squared, 3n squared plus 4n? So you get the one with the largest term, which is 3n squared. So it equals to 3n squared, but you get rid of the coefficient, so you get. So that's it for the workshop. Are there any questions? No questions? Okay, so you guys are free to go. I wish you all the luck on the exam. And if you want to have more practice questions, you can email me here. So this will be my email. I have a lot more practice exams like this, as well as a solution. And I've also taken all of these courses. So if you have any questions about these courses, you can also email. I will stop the recording now.